Okay, and just going from there. So, for example, now when it comes to marriage as well, like I've mentioned to you about my marriage documentary before. And it's 2.5 years late as well. It's my search in getting married. So what I'm sharing with the people is how to go about it the right ways.
Okay.
The struggles that I faced, the racism that I got, not finding the right person, how to get to know someone in the right manner. We go through the fiqh of it as well. So, for example, when you get to know somebody, the question you should ask, what they can ask, can you go out together with the father there, etc. What's the limits? We talk about all of that. But one aspect that I personally saw, and a lot of people message me about, is, and they fall for this, is again, it comes to the appearance, you know, like, I thought this brother, they're making their decisions based on that. Now, there's one advice that I give, and maybe you can give me advice on my advice, inshallah, is that what I say to them is, a sister who wears niqab, be it hijab, be it abaya, be it the jilbab, or a brother who wears the thobe or the beard, whatever it may be. And I'm trying to word it in the best way possible, but you shouldn't, that shouldn't be a deal, like, okay, if this person has this.
A deal breaker.
Yeah, like, for example, oh, this sister, she has niqab, she wears jilbab, yeah. Because a lot of people I've seen, it comes back to the clothing thing. They marry this person and they say, when I went home, this girl is, what I saw, and it's two totally separate things. So I would like an advice from yourself regarding marriage. Youngsters, what should they look out for? What should they be careful for? And because a lot of people, for instance, I know brothers who, the sister, niqab, went home, everything's out the window. You're thinking, and yes, brothers as well, he was wearing a thobe, he was an imam, he was this or that, he had a long beard, went home. So how do they be careful? How could one not fall for this? Because at the end of the day, you can't help it. When you look from the apparent, you can't assume the worst. You can't come and say, okay, maybe he's an alcoholic. Of course, you're not going to think that. Perfect. But a lot of people fall for this. So I want like a general marriage advice for youngsters, and also for those who might see a brother. And what happens sadly is because they tarnish the image of everyone because they look like you.
Right. Or he was a monster.
Yes.
Now everyone is like that.
Yes. And how do we counterbalance that? Because it's one of the biggest problems that I think.
Clear. Okay, I'll give you a personal story. Something happened to me in my life. When I was in the College of Hadith, the 8th semester, which is in the 4th year, anyone who wishes to apply for the master's program, he has to take the exam before he's actually graduated.
Okay.
So you take the exam for the master's degree before you're finished bachelor's degree. But the chances of you failing the 8th semester and applying for the master's program are slim to none. You have no business applying for a master's degree if you have the thought of possibly failing in the bachelor's.
Yes.
So I think it was about maybe how many people took the test? Maybe 30 of us, 32 people from 2 different classrooms. And the people that got it, that actually passed the exam, I think were like 24 or 25 people that actually passed the exam. So before we knew that we had actually passed the exam, a lot of brothers were upset and they were mad and they were sad because the exam was nothing how they expected. And I'm talking about my classmates. These guys had memorized everything, studied day and night for months, let alone what they already knew and the grades they were already getting, high GPAs. Yeah. But when the exam came, it was totally different than how they expected it. Okay. And the teachers asked a lot of peculiar questions that were unorthodox, they weren't expecting. And me personally, I remember answering several questions on the exam that I didn't even get from the College of Hadith, from external sources. Alhamdulillah, I had the ability to answer. But if you hadn't sat with this or read this book or read this sharh, you would have been lost. So we took the exam, and it took about maybe a couple weeks for the results to come out. And the brothers were stressed, they were upset, and we would make jokes about the master's program, and we call it a sanam, call it an idol. And the people, they're worshiping idols. They hope for it, and they fear it. The master program is everything. Brothers were about to cry, they were upset. Like the world is over, we failed the exam. Then the results came out, alhamdulillah, and the brothers were shocked. Oh, I passed the exam, alhamdulillah. Like the Quran says, their faces, they become blue, and then when we give them what? When we rescue them, they what? Yes, they have glad tidings again. So that's the first level of the master's program. After that, you have to take a Quran exam, in which there's a certain amount of the Quran that you have to recite and be able to prove that you've memorized it. And the third and final step of getting into the master's program is a personal exam, in which they have the students outside of a room, 3 senior professors inside of a room, and they call in the student one by one. So we're sitting out there, we're talking, and we're like, what's going on? What are they saying? What are they asking? So when I got into the room, it was 3 professors sitting at a table, and literally it's like something out of a movie, literally. They start interrogating you and asking questions, good cop, bad cop. He says something, and everything that they asked you is a trick question. None of the questions were real. It was a trick question, a fake question. And they're like, nah, I'm right, Sheikh. And they're going back and forth, playing a game like it's a real piece of information. So if you stuttered or you sweat or you fell into the trap, they wouldn't accept you. So alhamdulillah, I answered all the trick questions in the correct way, all right? Alhamdulillah. So what's the point I'm trying to get to is that these scholars of hadith, these doctors, they knew that anyone could pass a test. Anyone could recite some Quran. But you have to be of a certain caliber to be able to what? Not to get fooled. And you're only going to answer the trick question based off of what you really feel and know in your heart. So if you stutter and say, oh, no, I didn't mean that, lie. He's really not serious. So the advice that I give, what's the point of the story? I'm trying to make a very important point. Just like what they did with Imam al-Bukhari. They tricked him, or they tried to trick him, but it didn't work. Okay, Imam al-Bukhari was so famous, he was so popular, he had such a high level of repute, and he was renowned around the world. But there were skeptics. Many people were skeptical about Imam al-Bukhari. Maybe he just sits in his house and he writes the hadith. So when he went to Baghdad, after the many times that he went to Baghdad, the people, they sat around and they said, we're going to trick him. We're going to take 100 hadiths with 100 chains of narrations, and we're going to mix and match. And there are 10 shuyukh. Each sheikh takes 10 hadith. He's going to take isnad here and the metin there, mix and match. And they all threw them at Imam al-Bukhari. So the first sheikh, he asked the 10 questions. Imam al-Bukhari says, La alam, I don't know. Then the second, then the third, and the people in the crowd like, whoa, what is this? He's embarrassing himself. He knows nothing. 100 hadiths is nothing with the isnads. But then when they got to the 9th sheikh and the 10th sheikh, some people in the crowd start saying, wait, no, Imam al-Bukhari is really smart. Imam al-Bukhari, he smelt the trap. And after the 10th sheikh gave the 100th hadith, Imam al-Bukhari says, I know none of these hadiths. And the people say, oh, he doesn't know anything. Imam al-Bukhari is a sham. And the others said, no, he's smart. And then Imam al-Bukhari, he says, أما حديثك الأول فحدثنا فلان قال أخبرنا فلان قال رسول الله. And he ran through all 100 hadiths. And then the people, they realized that Imam al-Bukhari was a true prodigy and he was a genius. But that's not the most amazing part of the story. The most amazing part of the story is how Imam al-Bukhari memorized the mistake.
No way.
He memorized the 100 hadiths that were wrong, repeated them, then gave the correct version of those hadiths. So what's the point? What does that have to do with marriage? You're asking me. Hadith. What's the connection?
What's going on?
The connection is that sometimes you have to ask trick questions, and everyone is ready for the answer. What are the conditions of La ilaha illallah? Where is Allah? Is it haram to do this? Is it haram to do that? So if someone's faking the funk, quote unquote, they're not really living how they're preaching and talking.
Okay, I see.
They have ready-made answers.
Yes.
So there was one brother. He came to me in New York and he says, Mufti, I want to get married. What should I ask her to sit down? I want to, what if she has this problem? I said, ask her. Don't ask her, does she listen to music? But ask her, what's her favorite song? Ask her, what's your favorite song of this rapper or this musician or Beyonce or Drake, whatever the stuff that they listen to today. Just be realistic. I said it to her. I said, what's your favorite Drake song? What's your favorite Beyonce song? And the brother started cracking up. He started laughing like, Mufti, you crazy, man. I said, ask her the question. If she stutters and say, no, it's haram, then you know that it's what? She's not really telling the truth. But if she says, what? I don't listen to Beyonce or Drake. Astaghfirullah. Then inshallah ta'ala, she doesn't listen to what? Listen to music. So the point of the moral of the story is that sometimes to get the actual information and to see someone's true nature, you have to ask them a what? A trick question. Because you catch somebody slipping. So if there's someone who's really not righteous, no matter how big his beard is or how black his sajda mark is, you ask him trick questions. And then you can see how he reacts in a situation in which something is being thrown at him that he's not ready for. So that's my advice. You want to know if someone drinks, ask them their favorite drink. When's the last time you had a drink? And see their response. And you'll be shocked how effective this simple technique is. You'll be shocked.
No, don't go into more detail. We'll probably add some bits to the marriage documentary so they can watch
But
it.
you-
Don't do it. I got it. I got it.
You got the point I'm trying to get?
I got it.
Makes sense?
Yeah. May Allah bless you. That's actually very vital. May Allah bless you, inshallah.